And a lot of us are holding ourselves to an unrealistic and an unsustainable standard of good enough, of competence.
Welcome, ladies, back to the Soul Enchilada. I am so thankful that you are here. A huge shout out to all of you who have reached out to me over the past several weeks. I think it's been 6, 7, 8 weeks since we have recorded. Oh my goodness. Thank you for your concern. Thank you for your emails, your text messages. The Soul Enchilada is alive and well. We just had to take a wholly needed pause. I needed to get my first traditional publishing book out. Christine needed to take a pause for personal and professional reasons. I am back kicking us into this holiday season with an incredible woman, an incredible voice, my friend Jess Basson. Did I say it right? Awesome. Yes, I am bringing her to you because I think you will not only love her energy, her spunk, you will adore her South African accent, and she is brilliant. She is brilliant. Ladies, she's getting her PhD in work and meaning and creativity. So she brings a wealth of experience to the table. She's an author, a pastor, a thought leader, an entrepreneur. I am blessed to have you in the house, Jess, on the Soul Enchilada. And as I've shared with her, and I want to remind all of you, we bring real life stories, questions. We're not afraid of the raw emotions, and we make relevant connections to support women in whatever issue you're going through. So today, we have a very special topic. It's imposter syndrome. It is perfect time for this time of year, as many of you have written in and asked, oh my gosh, how can I be myself at Thanksgiving or Christmas or the New Year's? How can I get done with everything I need to do and wear all the hats and juggle? Whew. Today, we're just going to take a breath and we're going to settle in and we're going to talk about being your real self in the holidays. Welcome, Jess. I am so grateful you're here.
Thanks, Laura. I always love hanging out with you. And if I get to hang out with all your friends too, that's even better.
You're going to love them and they're going to love you. Let me tell you a little bit about how Jess and I met. We were at a women's speaker boot camp. It was the very first night. We rolled in from different parts of Colorado. I was exhausted for sure. I took a seat. I looked to my left and I was like, wow, who is this amazing chick? And we got to talking, and I felt like I had found my long lost sister. And we talked all weekend. We've kept in touch, and I'm grateful that you're here. Thank you, Jess. I really appreciate you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. I'll always remember that evening because I had been living in the US for 1 month. We arrived in January, we met in the February, and there's always this big question mark of like, where and how am I going to find my people? And sitting next to you that night, I was like, oh, there she is. This is amazing.
Oh, I feel the exact same way. I can't believe you've been in Colorado for 2 years.
Yeah.
It feels like it has just flown. Okay, here's our first question, girl. Are you ready?
Oh, yes.
Can you share with all of our listeners a moment in your life when imposter syndrome hit you the hardest? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? Can you just give us a glimpse into that time period in your life?
Oh, I feel like imposter syndrome is sitting on my shoulder all the time. And so it's quite tricky to identify like a moment where it was screaming in my ear. Um, but something that stands out to me, Laura, is, and I didn't know it was imposter syndrome at the time. It was probably a decade later when I found out that these are the words that syndrome always shows up with. And it is the like, you're just too much or you're just not enough. And I was probably in my like almost finished college. I was on the edge of a dance floor, getting ready to go out with my girlfriends, drinking a Southern Comfort and lemonade as we did in 2003. And my favorite song came on, Madonna, Like a Prayer. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I grabbed my girlfriends, I ran out onto the dance floor, and I was singing at the top of my lungs. And this guy turned to me and he looked me up and down, a friend of mine, Matthew, and he looked me up and down and he said, geez, Jess, calm down. And I had this visceral flood of shame just go through my body. I could actually, I still feel that way when I tell the story. And I thought, oh my gosh, what is wrong with you, Jessica? Why are you like this? Why are you just so hectic and so extra? And I think that, and I remember shrinking into myself.
Mm.
And that's what imposter syndrome does. Imposter syndrome says to you, who do you think you are? And it makes you feel small, and so that you move yourself over onto the edge of the dance floor and you stop dancing and you stop singing at the top of your lungs and you find a nice safe place on the sidelines where no one can make you feel small. And so for me, imposter syndrome is very visceral, it's very embodied, and it's this shrinking of self with the weight of who do you think you are kind of hanging on you.
Oh, that is a brilliant way of explaining it. And I really and I'm so grateful you brought that up because I am in the midst of reading your book, Empty Cages, which you can get on Amazon. And you're sharing the same story that's on page 36. And I highlighted it, Jess, and I wrote two
Oh.
dot dot dot. I was too much, too extra, too hectic. And I think every single woman listening to this has their answer to that. I'm too much. You said not enough. I'm too loud. I'm too quiet. I'm too controlling. I'm too I mean, that's the one that hits me. I'm too controlling because as
Mm.
women, we've been told for so long, like take your seat, shrink back. It makes me think of I was speaking to women in Los Alamos, New Mexico that work at the laboratory, and these are brilliant engineers, but they are in the minority. They are women who have their masters, their PhD, but they're sitting in a room full of men who are also highly achieving, but inside they're shrinking. And they said to me,
Mm.
because it was a weekend all about building our confidence. And a woman came up to me and she said, I'm a lead project manager and I have so much confidence in this room. But when I go back to work on Monday, I will shrink. I will shrink back to the one who's always sitting at the table, listening, taking notes, and I keep all my ideas to myself. Oof, that just gave me chills. So, we don't want you to shrink back, girls. We don't want you to hide on the sidelines. Each one of us is uniquely gifted, talented, given life experiences where we can speak up. That is incredible. Here's the next question. Many women struggle with imposter syndrome. And why do you think it's so prevalent today? Because I'll share with you,
Mm.
I didn't know about it. When I was growing up, I just did the shrinking or sat on the sideline, but I didn't have a word for it. I didn't know about it. But talking to my
Mm.
daughters that are in their 20s, they talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
So is it more prevalent? What do you think?
So, Dr. Valerie Young, she is a researcher and a psychologist who kind of pioneered the language of imposter syndrome, because I think you're right, Laura. It's always been there. It's just that now we know what it sounds like and we know what to call it. And she didn't coin the phrase, but she pioneered it, and this was in kind of the 80s. But what's interesting for me, I think, is imposter syndrome is not the I think so many women experience it because, and this is what her research shows, that people who experience imposter syndrome have an unrealistic and unsustainable definition of competence.
Wait, say that one more
And
time.
so, for a lot of women who feel like imposters, who feel like they're just not good enough, or they just don't have what it takes, or they're too much, what they are doing is they are holding themselves to a standard of competence. Like how we define competence is often what impacts what we think we're capable of. And a lot of us are holding ourselves to an unrealistic and an unsustainable standard of good enough, of competence. And so I think it's prevalent, Laura, because we compare. So we look at everybody's shiny highlights reels. We don't see the behind the scenes. I think it's prevalent because there's so much pressure for perfection, and what we view good enough as is completely unrealistic. Like no one can do that. And so the gap between how we see ourselves and how we think we should be showing up is where imposter syndrome jumps into that gap. And so that's one of the reasons I think it's prevalent. But the other thing, and I think this is why in her research, she says 70% of women experience imposter syndrome at some point in time. Men feel it too. It does show up in men, but women by far experience it more. And I think it's because there is like this cultural bind, like a systemic bind around women and likability.
Ooh.
Like, we don't want to come across as competent or confident because in women that gets labeled as arrogant or, you're just, I don't know if this is an American phrase, tooting your own horn. Is that a thing? Do you
Yes,
guys say that? Okay. Sometimes I
yes.
say things and no one knows what I'm talking about.
No, toot your own horn. Yes,
Toot your own
absolutely.
horn. So in
Yeah.
in an attempt to be liked, in an attempt to be heard, like your friend at the laboratory, she goes back to work and she shrinks and she takes notes instead of speaking up because she doesn't want to come across as arrogant.
Mm.
And how's this, Laura? This is my favorite piece of research from Dr. Valerie Young. So women, no, men typically, not always, but men typically attribute failure to external circumstances. Like, oh man, like the numbers dropped, or we didn't hit our target because of the market, or, you know, uh, it's always someone else's fault for failure. They like attribute that failure to external circumstances. But women attribute success to external circumstances. So when they do well, they go, oh, I was just lucky, or I was at the right place at the right time, or oh, it was really my team. So women attribute success to external circumstances, men attribute failure to external circumstances. And so we find ourselves in this like system where don't brag, don't be arrogant, underplay your achievements, like understate your accomplishments, be liked, and that is like fuel for imposter syndrome. It's just shoveling coal in the fire of like, I don't really have what it takes. I shouldn't even be in this room. Like, they're going to find out that I have no idea what I'm doing, that I'm just winging it. And that's why I think so many people, like especially women, experience it today.
That's incredible research that you brought to the table. It also made me think if women are giving the success to an outside source or an exterior something else that's going on, I wonder, my thought is that when we fail, do we blame ourselves?
100%.
Yes, of course we do.
Yeah.
So we're blaming ourselves when it fails, but we're not celebrating the successes.
Exactly. The celebrate. So, like, that's one of my antidotes to imposter syndrome is celebrate. Like, celebrate your successes. Like, get excited about the things that you're contributing to that are making a difference, that are working. I think a lot of women, I know, I really struggle. Like, if someone says, oh, I like your shirt, I'm like, oh, it's okay. It was $5 at a thrift store. Like, I don't have great taste. I wish, like, why do we do this? It's ridiculous.
I don't know. One of the things, the exercises we did, and let's move into the strategies. What are some practical strategies women can use when the voice of in their head is telling their
Mm.
imposter? And I'll kick it off and then pass the baton to you. One of the things I had the women do in Los Alamos is to remember their past
Mm.
successes. When
Oh,
have you done something really hard? Like you didn't think you were going to be able to get through that, and you did. Write it down. Like that
Wow.
is a huge, and when you start lining up, like I didn't think I was going to get through that really hard, tests in college. I didn't think I was going to get through that. I mean, chemotherapy. That,
Wow.
oh my gosh, look what you've gone through. I didn't think I was going to get through that really hard relationship. I never thought I would stop, we don't stop grieving, but I never thought I would get out of bed after my son
Mm,
died, for example. It's like
mm.
I got out of bed. I got back to work. That was the hardest thing I ever did. But those are the accomplishments, those are the real life experiences that build our confidence. So I'm going to pass it to you. So we want to remember our past successes to build confidence. What else do we want to do?
Well, this builds on that because I think what we need to acknowledge is facts, not feelings. Like you felt like staying in bed, but the
Hmm.
fact is that you got out. There are women who I feel like I have no idea how to parent this kid, but I'm doing it. So I think facts over feelings. And I always say to people when we're talking about imposter syndrome, you're not an imposter. You feel like an imposter. Because
Right.
imposter syndrome is not a person who has no idea what they're doing. We are all in situations where we have no idea what we're doing. Like, I regularly am the most clueless person in the room. But imposter syndrome is the little voice that you don't know what you're doing when you actually do, when you're actually really good at what you're doing, or you do know what you're talking about, and you still think, oh, I'm an idiot. So I think facts over feelings is a big one to overcome imposter syndrome, whether you're reflecting back and remembering on something you did. Don't remember how you felt, remember what you did, remember what happened.
Oh my gosh,
And the
Jess.
same is for the current present moment is like, you know what? I feel like an idiot, but I'm actually doing really well. Like facts over feelings.
Oh my gosh. I just feel like I got sucker punched. Oh, I just sat
Sorry.
at the table with the publishing company. I was the author in the circle, sitting at the table with the, developmental editors and the agent and the publishing, all these
Oh,
different big hats, right? And I was like, what the heck am I doing at this table? What am I doing
mm,
at this table? Why are all these people gathered? The design team and the content team and blah 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 blah. And
gosh.
and I was freaking out, which is exactly what I was feeling, not thinking, hey, guess what? You finished the whole manuscript. You got it in
Yep.
on time. You
Yep.
you finished 10 chapters with 10 hard questions. You did the
Ooh.
research, you told the stories. You I needed to hear that before I sat at that table.
And
But
they want you, Laura. They wanted you. Like they chose you to be in that room.
wow,
That's a fact.
wow, that is
They
powerful.
invited you into that space.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of all the women who are listening to this who are going to be sitting somewhere this week or this month,
Mm.
whether it's at a Thanksgiving table or sitting at a boardroom table, sitting on the floor, playing with kids. We're
Yep.
going to be sitting somewhere, and that voice is going to say, what the heck are you doing? Why are
Yeah.
you here? Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. So we remember our past successes, we celebrate, we put facts over feelings. Is there anything else
Mm.
you want to share?
I think what we're doing right now is actually, and there's lots of awesome research to back this up, but actually verbalizing it, which is why it's so great that your daughters who are in their 20s can recognize the voice of imposter syndrome and label it. This is not mine. I got this from a child psychologist, but he talks about emotions and he says, name it to tame it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when something is like floating around in your head and you haven't given language to it, you haven't taken it out your head and put it on a paper or put it in a text to a friend or put it into a conversation, when we give it language, we build a little container and it's not just running rampant through our brains. And so reveal your self-doubt, like say it to someone, tell somebody, share it. Like what we're doing now is talking about it, and that diminishes the power of that little lie that we don't know what we're doing. Because like we know that that lie is ultimately rooted in shame, and shame thrives in secrecy. It grows in the dark, and when we bring it out into the light, it shrivels up and dies. So just I feel like for anyone who's carrying the heaviness of like, what am I doing? No one knows what, like I have no idea what I'm doing. They're gonna judge me. If they find out like the truth about me, it's gonna, make me look so weak and vulnerable, and all of those little niggly lies that bounce around in our heads like ping pong balls. When we take them out of our heads and we put this somewhere else and we look at it, it reduces the power of those words.
Mm. I know that many listeners have shared with me that they listen to this podcast while they're walking and then they share it with someone. And
Mm.
that's a beautiful way. I want to remind you that we always put questions in our show notes and you can go through those questions. It'll prompt you to talk about this topic. And I'm thinking of the woman who doesn't want to talk about it. She wants to keep it in the dark for a while because she's wrestling with it
Mm.
herself. I'm going to
Mm.
encourage you to write about it. There is so much research about when we write how we're feeling and what we're thinking, and we see it on the written page, we can find connections that we weren't able to find before. And that's something I did in my grief journey is I wrote the things that I miss about my son. I wrote all the different feelings and then I would write a little note to myself. Everything you're feeling is normal. Feel it to heal it. Not that I'll ever be
Mm.
healed completely, but we do need to let those emotions bubble up. And I loved how you were explaining the ping pong, like bing, bing, bing. Like in a given day, we can go from feeling angry to resentful to happy to joy to sorrow to, all over. And we have enough space. That's the way God has created us, is that we have all those emotions. But sometimes as we go into there, you could even draw a picture on a page of your heart or a soul enchilada swirling signal, and then just start labeling it. Like, I have a sad part and I have a happy part and then write about that. Where is that coming from? And it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry with
Mm.
God. It's okay to be angry with whoever, yourself even, because our feelings are a roadmap to the healing
Mm.
that we need. And then that might reveal who you want to talk to,
Oh,
you know,
I love that.
because we may not want to share this, with, I don't know, a sister or a friend that we always share with. We might want to share this with first ourselves, in your soul, with whoever you view as your higher power, God, Jesus, whoever. And then also find the right person, a trusted friend who can handle this. Because, I have been told by some family members that I am too much. And so I don't share all those big emotions with those
Yeah.
family members. I know you can handle it. I've got some other friends that can handle it. You're not going to label me. You're not going to put me in a cage. And you accept that there's a lot to Laura. There's a lot to all of
Mm.
us, and we want to express our feelings and
Mm.
then get underneath it. I love that. The facts, like, what are the facts? You actually got the degree. You landed the job. You had the kid. You live in America. Yeah. Do you ever feel that way, like coming to America? And do you ever feel imposter syndrome? Like
All
in
the time, Laura, because, and it's a funny mix of things because there is a lot of stuff I don't know. And the problem is, I don't know what I don't know. And so I will like say things like when we first got here, people would be like, "So, how's it in America?" And I'd be like, "Oh, it's been amazing. It's been a really smooth transition. I feel like we've landed with our bums in the butter. It's been great." And then they like, I look at their faces and they're like, "The what in the what?" I'm like, "We've landed with our bums in the butter." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, Oh, that's English, but no one in America says we've landed with our bums in the butter. It's like a nice smooth landing, like it's a soft landing.
Falling off my chair. You said bums in the butter.
Yes,
You've
that is
landed with
a
your
very
butts in the butter.
Yeah, that is a very common expression in South Africa to
Okay.
indicate that you have had a soft landing. And it didn't take me long to realize that no one here says that. So I'm often second guessing myself. I'm like, do you guys say this? Is this a thing? Like, am I being wildly inappropriate and not knowing? Imposter syndrome, I'm like, I feel her like grab my arm and walk with me out the door every day.
Well, you are accepted here, my friend.
Thank you.
Jess, I hope you feel a sense of belonging with our Soul Enchilada sisters.
Mm.
This is a safe place. We get to be real, raw, and relevant with all of our hot mess. And I'm so grateful for you. We just have a few more minutes. Um, any last words that you would like to share on best practice or best support that we could give to our friends as they walk into this Thanksgiving holiday season? Words of wisdom.
Mm. Gosh. Well, first of all, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving in South Africa. And so I have like a picture of a movie. I'm living in a movie right now with like Thanksgiving and winter and whatnot. But I do recognize that there are these moments where we gather around people who, like you said, maybe have already told us we're too much, or have glanced at us over the table with a "you're just not good enough," like you just don't have what it takes. Um, and when I find myself in the spotlight like that, whether it's around a family table or just trying to show up for the people in my lives in my life the way that I want to, and I feel like, is it enough? Is it good enough for them? Am I helping? Am I caring the way that I want to? Like that gap is to slow down.
Mm,
And I need a script to slow down, Laura. Like I need to have given myself permission before dinner or before we're all bustling around the kitchen together to be like, oh, I just need to go to the loo, which is the toilet. It's the restroom. If I say I need to go to the loo, you can use my phrase, girls, this holiday. Be like, oh, my South African friend says the loo. But give yourself a gentle little off ramp so you can slow your heart rate down, slow your thinking down, and permission not to respond in the moment.
right.
I think that's the way to survive the holidays
I
is
love it.
just slow down, whether it's a slow walk or a slow sip of your wine or a slow pee on the loo. Like give yourself some space to slow down and then do facts over feelings.
Nice. Thank you so much. And again, ladies, we will put questions in the show notes. I will make sure you have a way to find Jess, find her book, Empty Cages. Wow, this has been incredible. And you have just spurred me on with new energy and hope for the blasting out of the soul enchilada. So thank you, Jess. I appreciate you being here. You're amazing.
Thank you for having me. I love hanging out with you. And like I said, if we all hanging out together, amazing.